The hotel lobby was busy that afternoon. Guests walked in and out. Suitcases rolled over the polished marble floor, and the soft music from the ceiling speakers made the place feel warm and rich. Behind the front desk, the receptionist smiled. At arriving guests, checking them in with polite words, everything felt normal until the glass doors opened and a tall man stepped inside. He was dressed in a white thobe that looked new and spotless. On his head, he wore a white nandgold gutra, and around him were two serious-looking bodyguards. Everyone in the lobby turned to look. It was not just because of his clothes, but the way he walked, like someone used to being in control. But his face was tense, his eyes sharp, as if something was already bothering him. He approached the front desk and began speaking quickly in Arabic. The receptionist's smile froze. She looked confused, her eyes darting left and right. "I'm sorry, sir." "I don't understand," she said in English. The man frowned. Speaking again in Arabic, slower this time, using his hands to point toward the elevators. The receptionist tried again. "I'm sorry. Do you have a booking? Room key?" She was guessing, but it didn't work. The man's voice grew louder. Some guests stopped what they were doing to watch. His bodyguards stepped closer, but they didn't say a word. They understood. But they were clearly letting their boss speak. The receptionist called for the duty manager, who arrived looking nervous. The manager also tried speaking in English, then in broken French, but nothing worked. The air in the lobby began to change. Whispers spread among the guests. "Who is he? He's angry. Is he complaining about something?" Some people took out their phones to record the scene, hoping to capture something interesting in the far corner of the lobby near the cleaning supplies. A young black maid was pushing her cart. She had been working quietly, replacing flowers in the vases and dusting the shelves. But the moment she heard the man's voice, her hands froze on the handle of the cart. Her heart skipped a beat. She understood every single word he was saying. He was not angry for no reason. He was saying that his elderly mother was upstairs in the room, feeling sick. He had called room service for hot water and special food for her. But they had not arrived for over an hour. Now she was feeling worse. And he needed help immediately, but no one understood him, and every passing second was making him more desperate. The maid looked toward the front desk. She saw the man's frustration growing, the staff's helpless faces, and the curious eyes of strangers watching as if it were a show. She felt a twist in her chest. She knew she should speak up. But what if the staff thought she was stepping out of line? Maids were expected to stay in the background, not interfere in guest disputes. But here was a man who needed help, and no one was helping him. Her mind raced. She remembered her father's voice teaching her Arabic back when she was a little girl in East Africa, he had said. "One day, this language will be a bridge for you." She didn't know why those words came back to her now, but they gave her courage. Taking a deep breath, she left her cleaning cart and walked toward the desk. The staff didn't notice her until she stepped between them and the Arab man. The room seemed to go even quieter. In a clear, calm voice, she spoke in perfect Arabic. "Sir, can I help you?" The change on his face was instant. The tension in his eyes melted into surprise, then relief. "You speak Arabic?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Yes," she replied with a small smile. "Please tell me what you need." He quickly explained everything, and she listened carefully, nodding. She turned to the staff and translated, "His mother is sick. Upstairs, she needs hot water and special food. They've been waiting for over an hour." The receptionist's eyes widened suddenly. Everything made sense. She promised to send room service immediately. Within minutes, staff were rushing to prepare the food and water. The man's shoulders relaxed, and he looked at the maid with gratitude. "What is your name?" he asked her in Arabic. "Amira," she said quietly. "Well, Amira." "You have my thanks," he replied, his tone carrying real warmth around them. The guests and staff whispered again, but now the tone was different, instead of confusion. In judgment, there was curiosity, even respect. Who was this maid who spoke to a billionaire in his own language so confidently? And why did it feel like this was only the beginning of something much bigger? As Amira walked back to her cart, her hands were still trembling. She had only done what felt right, but deep inside, she knew this moment had just changed the path of her life. Amira could still feel the eyes on her as she pushed her cleaning cart back toward the storage room. The hotel lobby had returned to its usual rhythm, guests moving in and out, staff answering phones, but she knew people were still whispering. They had just seen a quiet hotel maid speak to a powerful man in his own language, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She had barely closed the door to the storage area when she heard a voice behind her. It was deep, warm, and in Arabic, "Amira, please wait." She turned to see the tall Arab man standing there, away from his bodyguards, his face calmer now, but his eyes filled with curiosity. "I wanted to thank you again," he said. "If you had not spoken up, my mother might still be waiting." Amira lowered her gaze politely. "It was nothing, sir. I only helped." But he shook his head. "No. It was everything." He studied her for a moment, as if trying to solve a mystery. "How does a maid in this hotel speak Arabic so perfectly?" he finally asked. Amira hesitated, unsure how much to share. "It's a long story," she said softly. "I grew up in East Africa, in a place where Arabic is spoken every day. My father taught me before he passed away." The man's eyes softened at her words. "You honor your father by keeping his language alive," he said. "Not many people value such things anymore." For a moment, the busy sounds of the hotel faded, and they stood in quiet understanding. Two strangers connected by a language most people in that building couldn't understand. Before she could say anything else, one of the bodyguards appeared. "Sir, your mother is feeling better. She says thank you," the guard reported in Arabic. The man nodded, then turned back to Amira. "My name is Khalid," he said, "and I owe you more than you realize." She shook her head quickly. "You don't owe me, sir. It is my job to help guests." But Khalid's expression became serious. "No, this was not your job. You stepped forward when no one else could. That takes courage." At that moment, the hotel's duty manager appeared, looking nervous. "Miss Amira, I need to speak to you," he said in English. Amira followed him to the side, unsure what was coming, to her surprise. His tone was almost apologetic. "I didn't know you spoke Arabic." "You should have told us." She gave a small shrug. "It never came up." "I am here to clean rooms, not translate." The manager looked uncomfortable, but said nothing more. When Amira returned to the lobby, Khalid was still there. "I have a request," he said, lowering his voice. "Tonight, I have a private meeting, an auction. It is important, but I fear I will be misunderstood again. Will you come and translate for me?" Amira's heart skipped a beat. "Sir, I'm just a maid," she said quickly. But Khalid smiled slightly. "Tonight, you would not be a maid. You would be my voice." The offer felt impossible. She thought about her simple uniform, her cleaning cart, the rules of the hotel. But she also remembered the way he had looked earlier, lost in a place where no one could understand him. Something inside her whispered that saying yes might open a door she didn't know existed. "I don't know if the hotel will allow it," she admitted. "Leave that to me." Khalid replied firmly. "I will speak to them by the end of her shift." The arrangements had been made. The hotel agreed to let her go with Khalid for one evening. She went home, her heart racing, wondering what to wear. She had nothing fancy, only a simple black dress she kept for special occasions. She pressed it carefully, cleaned her shoes until they shone, and tied her hair neatly. When Khalid's car arrived, it was unlike anything she had ever seen, a sleek black vehicle. with tinted windows and a driver who bowed when she stepped inside. Khalid was waiting in the back seat, dressed in a tailored black suit this time. "You look perfect," he said politely in Arabic. Amira blushed. "I hope I will do a good job." As they drove toward the auction hall, the city lights reflected. On the windows, Khalid leaned closer, speaking quietly. "There will be people tonight who will try to trick me, to make me pay more than something is worth. That is why I need you to tell me the truth of what they say." Amira nodded, realizing the weight of the responsibility. "I will not let them cheat you," she promised. When they arrived, the auction hall was filled with men in suits and women in glittering dresses. Eyes turned toward Khalid as he walked in with Amira by his side. Some people whispered, "Who is she?" while others gave curious smiles. Amira felt the weight of every gaze, but she kept her head high. Khalid leaned down and whispered in her ear, "Tonight, Amira, you are not invisible." And for the first time in her life, she believed it might be true. The auction had ended successfully. Khalid walked out of the hall with a calm smile, while Amira followed just a step behind him. She had translated every word, caught every hidden trick in the seller's voices, and helped him save thousands. When they reached the waiting car, Khalid turned to her, his voice full of warmth. "You did well, Amira. Better than I hoped." Amira smiled shyly. "I'm glad I could help." But inside, she was still replaying the night, the bright lights, the glittering jewelry. The way everyone had looked at her as if she didn't belong there. And yet, she had stood beside a billionaire and spoken confidently. It was a strange, almost unreal feeling. Once inside the car, Khalid leaned back and studied her quietly. "You handled yourself with grace," he said. "I must know more about you." Amira looked down at her hands, unsure how to answer. "There's nothing much to tell, sir. I clean rooms, I sweep floors." But Khalid shook his head. "No. You carry yourself like someone who has lived many lives for a moment." The hum of the car's engine filled the silence. Then Amira spoke softly. "I was born in a small, coastal town in East Africa. My father was a fisherman. My mother sold fruit in the market. Life was simple but hard." Khalid listened, his dark eyes never leaving her face. "When I was little, my father spent hours teaching me Arabic." She continued. "He said it would open doors for me one day. He believed knowing someone's language was the first step to knowing their heart." Her voice trembled slightly, but she smiled. Remembering him, he was right. Khalid murmured. "It has opened a door tonight." Amira's gaze softened. "He died when I was 12. After that, I helped my mother in the market. I used to translate for tourists, Arabic, English, even a little French, whatever I could learn from travelers." Her eyes grew distant. "We had so little money, but we had pride. My mother always told me, even if you have nothing, keep your dignity." Khalid nodded slowly, as if her words touched something deep in him. "I understand," he said quietly. "My own father taught me the same. But dignity is easy to lose when the world only sees your status or your wealth." Amira tilted her head, surprised by his honesty. "But you're a billionaire. People must respect you." Khalid gave a small, humorless smile. "Respect given for money is not real respect, Amira. Tonight, you showed me real respect by protecting me when others tried to take advantage." The car slowed as it approached the hotel, but Khalid wasn't finished speaking. "Tell me, why are you a maid here? With your language skills, you could be more." Amira hesitated. "Life is not always about what you can do, sir. Sometimes it's about what doors are open to you. I came to this city with nothing but hope. The hotel gave me work, so I took it." Khalid leaned forward slightly. "What if I opened another door for you?" Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if I gave you an opportunity to use your skills? To travel, to work for me as a translator. Not as a maid, Amira's heart thudded in her chest. It sounded like a dream, but dreams could also be dangerous? I don't know, she admitted. I wouldn't want people to think I'm using you for money. Khalid chuckled softly. If anyone is using anyone, it is I using your talents. And I would pay you fairly for them. The car stopped in front of the hotel. Khalid stepped out first, then offered his hand to help her out. The lobby was quieter now, but a few staff members noticed them walking in together and exchanged curious looks. Amira could almost hear their thoughts. What is the maid doing with him again? Before leaving for the elevators, Khalid turned to her one last time. Think about my offer. You don't have to answer now, but I believe your place is not in the shadows, Amira. It is in the light. His words stayed with her as she walked back to the staff quarters. She lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every moment from the day, from the first time she heard his voice in the lobby to his final words in front of the elevators. She thought of her father's lessons, her mother's advice, and the years she had spent working silently while the world looked past her. Maybe this was the moment he had spoken of all those years ago, the day Arabic would open a door. She never imagined, but even as excitement stirred inside her, so did a shadow of fear. Because she had no idea that accepting Khalid's offer would pull her into a world far more dangerous and far more beautiful than she had ever known. The next morning, Amira arrived at the hotel earlier than usual. Her uniform was neatly pressed and her hair was tied back, but her mind wasn't calm. All night she had thought about Khalid's words. Your place is not in the shadows, Amira. It is in the light. The offer sounded almost unreal, but something inside her told her it was more than just a kind gesture. She tried to focus on her work, changing sheets and wiping down mirrors, but every time she passed the lobby, her eyes searched for him. By midday, she spotted Khalid sitting in the lounge area with a cup of tea, his bodyguards nearby. When their eyes met, he gave her a small nod, as if he had been waiting for her. Amira, he greeted her warmly when she approached. Do you have a break? She nodded, feeling a flutter in her chest. Good, he said. Come, sit with me. There is something I need to discuss. They sat in a quiet corner away from other guests. Khalid leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. Tonight, I have an important meeting, not an auction this time, but something more. Delicate, Amira tilted her head. Curious, delicate, how? He hesitated for a moment before answering. It's a private negotiation, very private. If I'm not careful, it could cost me millions. Or worse, she frowned. Worse. She frowned. Worse. Khalid's eyes grew serious. Let's just say, not everyone in my business plays fair. Some of them are dangerous men, Amira. Men who smile while planning to stab you in the back. A small chill ran down her spine. But she didn't look away. And you want me to translate? She asked. Yes, he said firmly. I trust. You hear not only the words, but also the truth behind them. That is rare. Amira hesitated. Why me? You could hire a professional interpreter. Khalid gave a faint smile. Because I know you have no reason to betray me. The others. I cannot say the same. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Amira's mind raced. She had only known him for 2 days. Yet here he was, trusting her with something dangerous. It was risky, maybe even foolish, but there was something in his tone, a quiet respect. That made her feel she couldn't say no. All right, she said finally. I'll help you, Khalid's smile widened, but it wasn't one of relief, it was one of certainty. As if he had known she would say yes. Good, he said. I'll send a car for you tonight. Dress simply, but not as a maid. They must see you as my interpreter, not my servant. The rest of the day passed slowly. Amira finished her shift, went home, and opened the small wooden box under her bed. Inside was the same black dress she had worn to the auction. she ironed. It again polished her shoes, and this time she added a small silver necklace, the only piece of jewelry left from her mother. When the black car arrived that night, she stepped inside and found Khalid already waiting. He was dressed in another elegant suit, but tonight his expression was harder, colder. "Are you ready?" he asked. She nodded, though her heart beat faster than usual. They drove through the city until the bright lights faded, replaced by quiet streets and old buildings. The meeting was being held in a large private villa, its gates guarded by men in dark coats. As they entered, Amira noticed the way everyone's eyes lingered on Khalid, some with respect, others with envy. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Around a long table sat men in expensive clothes, their faces unreadable. The leader of the group, a heavy-set man with sharp eyes, stood to greet Khalid. Speaking in fast, flowing Arabic, Amira listened carefully, catching the polite words on the surface but also the sharp undertone beneath them. Khalid replied calmly, and then the real negotiation began. Amira's role was clear: translate every word exactly, without adding or removing anything, but it quickly became clear that the other men were playing a dangerous game. They spoke in subtle insults, hidden threats, and promises that twisted on their tongues. Amira's heart pounded, but she stayed steady, her voice calm and clear as she carried the words back and forth. At one point, the heavy-set man leaned in and said something so quiet only she and Khalid could hear. Her blood ran cold. It wasn't just a threat about money. It was a warning about what might happen if Khalid didn't agree. When she translated it, Khalid's jaw tightened, but his voice remained even. "Tell him," Khalid said slowly, "that I do not bend to pressure. Not in business. Not in life." Amira delivered the message without a tremor in her voice. The room fell silent for a moment, and then, slowly, the heavy-set man laughed. It was not a friendly laugh, but it was enough to ease the tension. The meeting ended with a deal, one that was fair to Khalid, and as they left the villa, Khalid glanced at her. "You were perfect," he said simply. "And you were brave." In the car, Amira finally let out the breath she had been holding. She didn't know what kind of world Khalid lived in, but she could feel that stepping into it had changed something inside her. It was no longer just about helping him. This was becoming something far more dangerous and far more personal. The city glittered under the night sky. Tall buildings sparkled like jewels. Cars honked in the busy streets, and the air was thick with the hum of nightlife. But inside the sleek black car, the world felt strangely quiet. Khalid sat beside Amira, his eyes fixed ahead, his hands resting loosely on his lap. Amira was dressed in the same black dress, but tonight she wore it with a little more confidence. Her hair was neatly tied back, and the silver necklace from her mother rested against her collarbone. She tried to stay calm, but her fingers kept twisting together in her lap. This was no ordinary night. This was the kind of night that could change her future forever. "Remember," Khalid said in Arabic, his voice low but steady, "at the auction, words are weapons. People will try to trick me, to sell me lies wrapped in gold. You must listen closely, even to what they don't say." She nodded. "I understand." He gave a faint smile. "I know you do. That is why you are here." When the car pulled up to the grand auction hall, Amira's breath caught. The building glowed under golden lights, its wide steps lined with guests in shimmering gowns and tailored suits. Photographers waited at the entrance, snapping pictures of the wealthy as they arrived. As Khalid stepped out, the flashes began instantly. He ignored them, offering his hand to Amira as she followed. For a moment, she felt the eyes of the crowd, some curious, some judging, but she kept her chin high. Inside, the auction hall was dazzling. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over rows of velvet chairs, and priceless art hung on the walls at the front. A stage displayed items under glass, antique Jewelry, rare paintings, ancient coins. Whispers filled the room as guests mingled, sipping champagne and exchanging deals in low voices. Khalid guided Amira to their seats near the front. Almost immediately, two men approached. Greeting Khalid in Arabic, their smiles were polite, but Amira caught the flicker of calculation in their eyes. They spoke quickly, trying to push him toward a certain item before the auction even began. Amira listened closely, translating their words for Khalid, but also adding quietly, "They're trying to make it sound rarer than it is. They want you to think it's worth more." Khalid's lips curved in a small, knowing smile. "Then let them think I believe them," he murmured back. "We'll see how the bidding goes." When the auction began, the air grew tense. The auctioneer's voice was smooth and practiced, moving easily between English, French, and Arabic. The first few items passed quickly, with Khalid only lifting his hand once or twice. But when a rare gold dagger from the 17th century was brought out, the room seemed to shift. Several bidders leaned forward, eyes locked on it. Khalid glanced at Amira. "Listen to them," he said softly. "Tell me what they say about it when they think I cannot understand." She tilted her head slightly, pretending to admire the dagger while focusing on the whispers around her. One man behind them muttered to another in Arabic, "It's beautiful, but the blade is cracked." Worth less than half the opening bid, Amira leaned toward Khalid. "The blade is damaged," she whispered. Khalid raised his hand calmly and began bidding. He let others drive the price up before stopping just short, watching as the dagger went to someone else, someone who clearly had no idea about the flaw. Item after item passed, and each time Amira listened, observed, and quietly gave Khalid the truth others were trying to hide. Her heart raced each time their strategy worked. It wasn't just translating anymore, it was playing a silent game of deception against the room. Then came the final item of the night, a rare centuries-old necklace said to have belonged to a queen. The crowd buzzed with excitement, and the bidding began fiercely. Khalid remained calm, only entering the bidding after several rounds. As the numbers rose, Amira caught a faint whisper from a man across the aisle in Arabic. "It is real, but cursed. Every owner died in misfortune." She froze for a moment, unsure if she should say it, but Khalid's eyes met hers, and she told him quietly. He didn't laugh or dismiss it. He sat back, letting the others fight over it. In the end, another bitter one, looking thrilled, while Khalid's expression stayed unreadable when the auction ended. Khalid and Amira walked out together into the cool night. "You did well," he said, his voice warm, not just in the words, but in knowing what to say and what not to say. Amira smiled faintly. "I just told you the truth." "And that," Khalid said, holding the door of the car for her, "is worth more than gold." As the car pulled away, Amira felt a strange mix of pride and unease. She had helped him win and avoid costly mistakes, but she also sensed that the world she was stepping into was full of shadows, and in those shadows, truth could be as dangerous as lies. The night after the auction, the hotel was quieter than usual. Most of the guests had gone to their rooms, and the lobby lights glowed softly against the polished marble. Amira was on her way to the staff exit, carrying her cleaning supplies when she felt it, a strange prickle on the back of her neck. Someone was watching her. She slowed her steps, glancing over her shoulder. At first, she saw nothing but the empty lobby. But when she turned the corner toward the staff hallway, she caught sight of a shadow moving just beyond the glass doors. Her heart skipped a beat. She tried to brush it off as her imagination, but the feeling didn't leave. By the time she stepped outside into the cool night air, she knew she wasn't alone. A figure detached itself from the shadows near the side alley. A tall man in a dark coat, his face half hidden. He took a slow step toward her, his voice low. "You were with Khalid last night, weren't you?" Amira froze, her grip tightening on the handle of her cleaning cart. "I don't know what you mean," she said in a steady voice, though her heart was racing. The man gave a humorless chuckle. "Don't play innocent. I saw you at the auction. You helped him. And you cost us a lot of money." Before she could respond, he stepped closer, his eyes cold. "Tell Khalid this next time, he won't be so lucky. And if you keep helping him, maybe you won't be so lucky either." Amira's stomach nodded. She opened her mouth to reply, but before she could, another voice cut through the darkness. "Step away from her." It was deep, firm, and full of authority. Two of Khalid's bodyguards appeared from the shadows. Moving quickly between Amira and the stranger, the man in the coat smirked, backing away slowly. "Tell your boss. He's making dangerous friends." Then he melted back into the night. Disappearing down the alley, one of the bodyguards turned to Amira. "Are you all right?" She nodded quickly, though her hands were shaking. They didn't let her walk home. Instead, they escorted her back into the hotel and straight to the private lounge where Khalid was waiting. When Khalid saw her pale face, his expression darkened. "What happened?" he asked sharply in Arabic. Amira told him everything, her voice trembling only once. Khalid's jaw tightened, and his eyes grew hard. "That man works for someone I outbid last night," he said. "I expected they might come to me, but I didn't think they would come to you." He stood, walking to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. "You are not safe walking alone anymore," he said finally. Turning to face her, "From now on, you will have an escort whenever you leave the hotel." Amira shook her head. "Khalid, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." He interrupted firmly. "You helped me." "Amira, that makes you a target. And I will not allow harm to come to you for a moment." The room was silent, except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Amira didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken about protecting her before. Her whole life she had protected herself. Now someone else was taking that responsibility, and it felt both strange and comforting. Khalid's voice softened. "You are in this world now, Amira. It is not always kind. But you are not alone anymore." The next day, she saw the change immediately. When she arrived at work, one of Khalid's guards was stationed near the staff entrance. Watching quietly, it made some of the other workers whisper. But Amira ignored them. She kept her focus on her duties. Though every so often, she caught the guard's eyes on her, ensuring she was safe. That evening, Khalid asked her to meet him in the hotel's rooftop garden, a private place away from curious ears. The city lights sparkled far below, and the cool wind carried the scent of flowers. He was leaning against the railing when she arrived, his expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking," he began. "You have already proved your loyalty and your skill. I want you to travel with me for my next business trip." "It will be to another country." Amira blinked. "Travel? As in, leave here?" "Yes," he said simply. "For work, but also for safety. Here, they know where to find you. There, you will be with me at all times." It was a tempting offer. The thought of leaving her small room and the hotel's routine for the wide world was something she had never imagined. But she also knew it would pull her deeper into his world, with all its shadows and dangers. Still, when she looked into his steady gaze, she found herself saying, "All right. I'll go." Khalid gave a small nod, as if he had expected no other answer. "Then prepare yourself, Amira," he said, "because once you step onto that plane, nothing will be the same again." The morning of the trip came faster than Amira expected. She stood in her small room, staring at the modest suitcase on her bed. Inside were the only clothes she owned, neatly folded, along with her silver necklace and a small framed photo of her parents. Her hands hesitated over the zipper. This wasn't just packing for a trip. It felt like packing for a completely new life. When she arrived at the hotel, Khalid's black car was already waiting. Two bodyguards stood by the door, scanning the street as soon as they saw her. They moved to take her suitcase. treating it with the same care they might give to a box of treasure. Khalid stepped out of the car, dressed in a dark suit with a silk scarf. "You're ready?" he said with a small smile. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, trying to hide the nervous flutter in her chest. The drive to the airport was quiet. Khalid seemed lost in thought, while Amira watched the city pass. By the streets she had walked for years, the market where she bought fruit, the tall glass hotels that had once seemed untouchable. Now she was leaving it all behind when they reached the private terminal. Amira's eyes widened. A sleek white jet waited on the runway, its polished surface gleaming under the sun. She had never been on a plane before, let alone one like this. Khalid noticed her awe and chuckled softly. "Get used to it. You'll see many like this." Inside, the jet was quieter than she imagined. The seats wide and soft. As they took off, Amira felt her heart leap, part fear, part excitement. She glanced at Khalid, who was calmly reading a file. "Where exactly are we going?" she asked. "A coastal city," he said. "I have meetings there, but you'll have time to see the beauty of it too." Hours later, they landed in a place that looked like a dream. The air was warm and smelled faintly of the ocean. Palm trees lined the streets, and the buildings were painted in bright colors. Their hotel was even more luxurious than the one back home, with marble floors and a view of the sea over the next 2 days. Amira accompanied Khalid to his meetings, translating in Arabic, English, and sometimes even a little French when needed. Each time she saw the same thing. People underestimated her at first, but within minutes they realized she was sharp, quick, and impossible to fool. Khalid watched her work with quiet pride, rarely needing to correct her. On the third night, after a long day of business, Khalid invited her to join him for dinner on the hotel's rooftop terrace. The sun was setting, painting the ocean in shades of gold and crimson. They ate in silence for a while, listening to the waves below, until Khalid set down his glass. "Amira," he began, his tone softer than usual, "do you realize how much your life has changed in just a week?" She gave a small laugh. "It feels like I've been living someone else's life." "No," Khalid said, shaking his head. "This has always been your life waiting for you. You just didn't see it yet." His words made her pause. She thought of her father teaching her Arabic, her mother's advice about dignity, and the years she had spent working quietly while the world passed her by. Maybe he was right. Maybe she had always been capable of more. She had just never been given the chance to show it. Khalid leaned forward slightly, his expression serious. "I meant what I said before, Amira. I want you to work with me permanently. Not just as a translator, but as someone I can trust completely." She blinked. "You mean travel with you everywhere?" "Yes," he said simply. "Where I go, you go. Where I negotiate, you are my voice. And I will make sure you are safe, always." For a moment, Amira didn't answer. She thought of the danger, the shadowy men in dark coats, the whispers at the auction, but she also thought of the opportunity, the freedom, and the respect she had never known before. Finally, she nodded. "All right. I'll stay." Khalid's smile was small but genuine. "Good. Then this is the beginning," he said, raising his glass in a quiet toast. The next morning, they left the coastal city for another destination. As the plane lifted into the sky, Amira looked out of the window, watching the ocean fade into clouds. She knew her old life was behind her. She didn't know exactly what awaited her in Khalid's world: danger, adventure, maybe even betrayal. But she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer the invisible maid in the hotel lobby. She was Amira, the woman who had stepped forward when no one else could, and in doing so, had changed her life forever.